Yo, what is going on, guys? Gamers Goon here today, and today we got to talk about Chicago Bulls basketball. How are they looking following the big trade deadline? Obviously, the major name on the trade deadline, Nikola Vucevic, and in that trade, we also got some players that I think have been playing pretty solid the last two games because this is the second game we watched. Javonte Green, he's looked okay defensively. Troy Brown Jr., I like what I'm seeing out of him. He's a decent defender. He's had some nice buckets here and there. And then we also just got to see the debut of Daniel Tice. Daniel Tice made his debut today as a Chicago Bull. I thought he did a pretty solid job. He had a couple times where he'd get the ball at the top of the key. He'd act like he's gonna shoot. Somebody opens up, made some nice passes. He came in there. He played some solid defense. He just did a really solid job. But the Chicago Bulls in general, following the trade, I think it's still a process. I'm going to be honest with you. It's still a process with this Bulls team. This Bulls team is still a long way to go. I think we'll be fine, but the last two games have been double-digit losses. They haven't been good games on all accounts. Their defense is lacking, and I think things will come together once Billy Donovan figures out what his rotations are going to be. We had no Kobe White today, but I don't really think that is an excuse that we should be using, especially at this point of the season. Um, we should just come in there and do our work. But hopefully, once Billy Donovan figures things out, we get Javonte Green in there more consistently playing defense. We get Troy Brown Jr. in there more consistently playing defense. I liked what I saw to Daniel Tice. I think he'll be a vital piece of what's going to go on forward for Billy Donovan's team here, Chicago Bulls. I think we're on the right track. The last two games obviously haven't been good. They're meshing together. The first game, I'm gonna be honest with you, nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, played well outside of the guys we traded for. Vooch had a good game. Vooch had a really good game. Al Farouk came in. He played some solid minutes. I mean, it was nothing special. I wasn't wowed with him the way I was with the other guys. But then Troy Brown Jr. and Javonte Green came in the fourth quarter, and they helped lead a comeback. We were down by 35 points at one point, and we ended up losing by like 16 or something like that. So they did a solid job. Javonte Green came in there. He played some good defense. He got a couple steals. I think he had 2 blocks, something like that. Troy Brown Jr. came in there. He was looking nice offensively. He was playing some solid defense. So I liked what I was seeing out of those two. And then Nikola Vucevic. Both games so far, he's been good offensively for us. I knew coming in that he wasn't going to be a great defender, and you can tell at times that might hurt us. But I think as long as we get Thad in there and we get our rotation set right, Lowry Markkanen and Vucevic in the same lineup, I don't know if that's going to work. Ideally, it would, because that'd be crazy spacing on the floor. But defensively, I don't know if that's going to work, man. Thad Young in there with Vooch makes sense, and then you get Lowry Markkanen in there with Daniel Tice. That makes sense there too, because Daniel Tice, he can hit the shot. He's a little bit of a stretch big, but he's more so in there to be that natural center. Even though he's a little undersized, he really plays that post role well. He's a decent facilitator. He can go in there, get some rebounds, go in there, be physical. That's his role. Our Markkanen doesn't really do much of that physical stuff, so Daniel Tice and him could be great. And then we can interchange the duos there between those two duos. I don't know if I like the Vooch and Markkanen thing, at least defensively. If you have them in there defensively, then I don't know if you can run Zach, because at that point you're just running 3 guys that aren't the best defenders. I'm not going to say they're poor defenders. Zach's been a okay defender this year. Lowry Markkanen at times can be a good defender, and Vooch is he's a center, man. He's a center, man. He'll protect the paint a little bit, but he's no Rudy Gobert. He's no Rudy Gobert. That's not why we traded for him. We traded for him to get some buckets. We traded for him for consistent scoring. So that's why we got Vooch. But yeah, man. And then the last game, it was all over the place, man. It was all over the place. I don't want to really do this, but I kind of have to mention it. I don't really think we got the calls that we deserved here tonight, because Steph Curry got a lot of calls, and Zach LaVine wasn't really getting those calls. Zach LaVine, he went 4 for 16. struggling. I don't think that the new players are getting adjusted to Chicago. I think what's happening is the Chicago players are getting adjusted to how to play with these new players. Because you've seen Zach the last 2 games. He doesn't look like Zach LaVine from before the All-Star break. You looked at even Kobe White. He really didn't know what he was doing. Pat Williams, P Dub, whatever you want to call him, Paw Patrol, whatever you want to call him. First game he wasn't there really. Today he had a better game. Lowry Markkinen was not very good. The first game that they had with him, he was better today. And man, there was a lot of guys on the bench that disappointed me. The first game that we had with Vooch in them, but the one thing I will say is Arch. He's been playing okay here. He's been playing okay. He's been doing his job. I liked what I was getting out of Arch. Now we just got to figure things out and get it all to work together, man. That is my one goal here with the Bulls this season. I think. Sorry, I accidentally hit my mic. That's the one goal I have with the Bulls this year is they got to mesh well together. I think we're a playoff team. Even though we struggle, we've gotten double-digit losses. They weren't good losses. They weren't close losses like we were having earlier in the year. And I think they'll get closer. I think we'll be able to turn those around to wins. There's no reason we should have lost to the Warriors today, but you could tell that the Bulls are still just figuring things out. They haven't really had a true practice yet, so this is still getting things going, man. So don't overreact just yet. Yeah, ideally you'd want to turn things around right away, but I would say give it at least another week. How many games do we have up in the next week? Let's go to Chicago Bulls schedule. We lost the Warriors tonight. The Suns on Wednesday. Friday we got the Jazz. Sunday we got the Nets. Tuesday we have the Pacers. So I'll say by the Raptors game on next Thursday. If we can't pick up a win, I mean it is a tough schedule. Suns, Jazz, Nets, Pacers. The Pacers are probably the easiest one out of everybody. That's a tough schedule, but if we can make those games competitive, and especially the Nets game, man, the Nets game I'm really looking forward to. Now, that might seem weird because we haven't been great defensively last few games, and we're playing against one of the best offenses, but they're not a good defense either, and I would like to see if we can maybe stop them a little bit. Give them a little bit of run, and maybe get a high-scoring game out of Chicago, maybe have some big 130, 140-point game there. If we score 140, I guarantee you the Nets will be up there too, but it'll be interesting to get to that game. But I'll say by next Thursday when we play the Raptors is when we can start to question it. I'm not questioning it right now. I think we're still getting into the things. And I even think next Thursday is a very unfair timeline to start judging things. Now, you can't sit there and question it a little bit. I don't think it's fair to say immediately on Thursday, the date that I gave you, that it's a bust, it's a terrible trade, anything like that. I don't think that's the way to go. I think we got to figure out the rest of the season, but we'll be starting to see this Bulls team and have more of an idea of what we're gonna do. I think by next Thursday. Now you're gonna have to work out some of the kinks in the system, especially when you're going up against some of the top tier teams in the league, teams that have been really solid all year long, teams that have great players, Devin Booker, Rudy Gobert. You're going up against Donovan Mitchell. You're going up against Kevin Durant if he plays. You're going up against Kyrie if he plays. You could possibly be going up against a James Harden. You could be going up against a motivated Blake Griffin. Man, that team on itself has 4 superstars at their best. Which leads into a whole different buyout problem that I'm not going to get into here. But it'll be interesting to see, man. This Bulls team needs to turn things around. I don't think it needs to be necessarily immediately. A lot of people would probably say that it probably should have been immediately. I know a lot of people have been a little bit disappointed with what we've seen so far from the Chicago Bulls. But you got to realize, man, these guys haven't played with each other. They're still getting into the flow of things. And when you think about it, man, we're adding 4 people into our roster. 4 people. And a normal rotation is what, like 10 people, maybe 11. Yeah, that's almost half our roster, half our rotations. Half our rotations are basically new almost. So I don't think you can look too far into it just yet. We're still getting into the flow and things. And I think next Thursday is probably the day that we're gonna have more of an idea of what we got going forward. So we'll see when that arrives. But for right now, it's been Gamers Goon. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you guys aren't too upset about what we've seen with Nikola Vucevic so far. Hopefully you guys are liking what we've seen out of Troy Brown Jr., Javante Green, Daniel Tice. Hope you guys are liking the players that have been added, Al-Farouq Aminu. And I hope it's going to be a good one for us, man. I think it's going to be a good one. Even if we don't go crazy this year, I do know Nikola Vucevic is going to be around for at least another 2 years. I'm not sure about Troy Brown Jr.'s contract. I want to resign Javante Green. I think Al Farouk's going to be around for another year. But this is going to be the team going forward, man. This is going to be the team going forward. This is going to be the team finishing out the season. This is going to be the team. At least this is going to be some of the team that we're going to be seeing next year. Vooch is going to be there. Troy Brown Jr.'s, I would assume, would be there. I feel like Troy Brown Jr. was a great trade. Obviously, the big name on the trade market was Vooch, but I look at that Troy Brown Jr. trade as an amazing trade. We got rid of Daniel Gafford, who hasn't been playing good basketball. Now, I like Daniel Gafford. I think he's very athletic. I think he can go on and have a great career. But we weren't even running him in our rotation. We were basically not running a backup center. We were going small ball. We were running Thad Young. We were doing a lot of weird stuff, man. We were doing a lot of weird stuff. Gafford got some time, but he didn't get nearly as much time as what he's going to get in Washington. And I think Troy Brown Jr. should easily be. You look at that, man. You look at that dynamic there. Gafford is not getting much time in Chicago. Troy Brown Jr. is not getting much time to do much in Washington. They flip-flop them. I think both of them switching teams could be best for both of them. I think there's a spot to game for Troy Brown Jr. on this roster. I think he could be coming off the bench there at that small forward position behind Pat Will. And I think Gafford has a legitimate chance there too, to solidify himself as somebody that they want to keep around for when Thomas Bryant comes back. I think it could be really interesting there with Gafford too. So the one thing I will say, even though I've talked a lot about what the Bulls current players have done, I don't want to wish any ill will upon any of the old players. Otto Porter, Wendell, Gafford, and anybody we traded, man. We still appreciate what y'all did for the city of Chicago, man. Mo Wagner, we appreciate you too because you got it, Daniel Tice. I will say shout out to Mo Wagner because we did pick him up in a trade. But that's all I got here today, man. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you do all that fun stuff. Make sure you go follow me on the Twitter sticks, thegoongameryt. I'll be talking a lot of Bulls basketball. I'll be talking a lot about the NCAA March Madness. I got a video coming out tomorrow. After the Final Four, or after the Final Four is official, I'm gonna be coming out with a video about the Final Four, and hopefully we get a good Final Four. Our first matchup is a matchup in Texas, Houston versus Baylor. A matchup this should be very fun. Two teams that can play very good basketball. Houston, a very good defensive team, and Baylor, a very high-powered team, has a lot of star players on that team with Masio Teague, Jared Butler, all them. But I'm going to get on out of here, man. Thank you guys for watching, and make sure you do the stuff I told you. And I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow.